Hello, my name is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous. I am here today to help prepare you for going through the process of divorce. Most of you, okay, all of you, are fearful, intimidated, and worried about going through this process because chances are you have never been here before. And even if, heaven forbid, it's your second divorce, there are some fearful factors of what is going to happen. So I want to give you some information, some tools that are going to help you. So what's going to happen if you were to jump in an attorney's office? You would spend probably the first hour telling the story, your story of the breakdown of the marriage. And then you would proceed the next hour in the attorney telling you, these are the documents that I need to have you prepare and get together. Well, this workbook helps you to do that. So if you do everything that's in this workbook, which we're going to go through today, and you get all of that information, you can go to an attorney's office, say, I'm ready, let's get to work. Because those 2 hours that I explained, the 1 hour telling the story and the second hour of getting all the documents together, that's at a minimum of $350 an hour. So in just securing this workbook, which, by the way, is at no cost, it is a download that I send to you upon request. So you can secure this through my Facebook page, divorcesupportanonymous.com, by requesting there, or go to my website, divorcesupportanonymous.com, and you can request this workbook and it will be sent to you, sent to your email address. So I want you prepared. I want to give you some tools so that you know something, anything before this process begins. So this is the cover of the book, and we're going to go through every page right now. I'm not going to give you all the detail here and discuss it at length, but I'm going to give you an exposure to this information. So you can get this workbook, you can begin to prepare, and you can be ready for that first meeting with your attorney and save yourself literally thousands of dollars by having this information ready. So this is just a little bit of information about me. These are some of the resources that I do offer. I have been in the divorce world for the past 16 years. I am a domestic mediator, divorce coach, and also hold support groups online and in person. So as you can tell, this is my life. Why is this my life? Because I went through my own divorce 20 some years ago, and I know how very lonely and frightening it can be. I don't ever want to see anyone experience what I experienced going through divorce. That's why these materials were written and why they are available, and each one of them is incredibly reasonably priced and is going to give you the information that you need, not only in getting through the emotional part of the divorce, but also helping work with the decisions you need to make, accepting where you are, accepting all of the financial losses, accepting the loss of family, accepting that you are now a single person, which means that you have a boatload of potential in your future, but it requires that you are intentional on your healing first. So there's some guidance for you. The first Suddenly Single book talks about my experience and how to go through divorce. And the greenish yellowish book there is Building Your Future After Divorce. And the third blue book is just a journal for the first year after divorce, because it is huge in all that you have to experience for the first time. The next book there is 30 Days of Healing After Divorce. This is a day-by-day guide in small bites so you can help yourself intentionally work on your healing. So, table of contents, how to use this workbook, should I have a divorce coach, selecting an attorney. These are some questions that you're going to have. Now, some people determine, you know what, I want to do this as much as I can by myself and not have an attorney. That's possible. If you and your spouse are willing to work together and say, hey, you know what, let's deposit thousands of dollars into our kids' college fund and not go through an attorney. Well, that doesn't mean that you're flying solo. It means that you're going to do the majority of the hard work, and then you're going to hire an attorney to review your work to make sure that you have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And those landmines, which can occur in retirement, in appraisal of the home, in co-parenting, spousal support, all of the factors. So we do want legal eyes to be paying attention and looking at your document once you have completed it. But there is some information, questions you can ask in selecting an attorney, what to expect in your first attorney meeting. This next portion right here is shows you just an area for you to list your support people. You are going to need that network of experts, which I talk about in my group and also in divorce coaching, who is guiding you in the finances, in the emotions, in the spirituality, in the legalities. You're going to need those people. And here's a place simply for you to make note of who those people are and a reference source for you. Premarital and why it matters, we talk about that. There are many people who have ownership of things, large ticket items, large assets that they had before the marriage. And that matters because it's possible to deduct the value of that asset prior to the divorce. Now, what is interest is acquired, value has been created during the marriage. That's going to be a marital that's going to be discussed, but it does matter if you have premarital, and you need to be aware of that, get the value of that, and have that discussion with your attorney if you are using an attorney. Here's some steps on what to expect in mediation. I highly recommend mediation. I know there are those who want to go the collaborative route, which means a whole team comes together and helps you go through the divorce. I love the theory, but in practical application, I have not seen it as successful or as cost efficient as what your divorce can be. Keep in mind, this is a business transaction. That's something I say to all of the people that come into my mediation. Unfortunately, we are gathered today for a business transaction. So have your best business sense with you. Now, that's not all of divorce, right? You've got the emotional piece. You need a support group or a therapist, let me say. This is the spiritual part. How do I struggle through the spiritual part? Well, you have a pastor. You need a pastor. Do not go to your attorney and expect them to be your therapist or your pastor or anything else. They are there to represent you and keep you out of legal demise and not for anything else. And if you use them for anything else, you're just spending a lot of your money, which is better suited toward other services with other professionals, with a pastor, with a counselor. So anyway, I'm running away with a little rabbit trail there. What to expect in mediation, you want to look through that. Full agreement, partial agreement, let me discuss that. I know I'm going fast, but the good thing about this recording is you can review it again, or you can order this workbook and you can work through it at your leisure. So a full agreement means everything has been decided in the mediation. What's so beautiful about mediation is you and your spouse have the authority over your life to make these decisions on assets, debts, co-parenting. If you decide, nope, I'm going to let the judge decide, which foolishly many people throw up their hands and say, I'm going to let the judge decide, thinking the judge is going to rule in their favor. Not always the case. In fact, the judge may rule in neither one of your favor, and therefore you are stuck with it. But in mediation, you can come together, you can work together and get all of these issues divided and solved. And what your mediator is going to do is create an agreement. It's called an agreement. And with both of your signatures, it is a legal document that is legally binding. The courts will recognize it and they will hold you to it. So that's the goal, is to get that agreement so you and your spouse can make these very important life decisions. Now, it happens sometimes that we can't reach a full agreement. we can agree on the house, and we can agree on the retirement, and we can agree on the boats and cabins and all the assets and all the debts. But there's this one thing out there. We can't decide on co-parenting. We can't decide where the kids should stay. And we continue to disagree and stand firm in our belief. Well, that may be decided by the courts, but you can create a partial agreement. And you'll see that here at the bottom. On the, well, it's on my right side. And it shows the partial agreement. So you can get that legal document completed. So the courts are only going to decide that one piece, whatever that piece is that cannot be decided on, if it's parenting time or whatever. But everything else is settled, resolved, off the table. So that's possible too. It's not all or nothing. We can get part of it done, if not all of it. Your rights with an attorney and rights of mediation. Mediation is voluntary. You can decide in the middle of mediation, forget it, this is not working, I'm done, and walk out. You have every right to do that. You have a right to have an attorney. You also have a right to dismiss your attorney and fire your attorney if he or she is not representing you the way that you should be represented. There's a chapter or a paragraph here about your emotions. Oh, of course we're full of emotions because a lot of injustice has occurred, some betrayal, some theft, some, the list goes on. But this is not the place for your emotions. This is a place to have that sense of business so that you are fully functioning in this mediation and making some really smart choices. Full disclosure, you have to have all of your finances, assets, debts revealed, disclosed, so that you know what you're working with. This is just some information. You're going to want to know income. You're going to want to average out that income. Are there bonuses involved? It can get pretty complex, but this is really just to give you a start in reviewing that. A document list. These are the documents that you need to bring together. And to have the value of the home must be appraised, not a realtor coming in and giving you a market value. In this day and age, real estate has gone pretty crazy. You need an appraiser. That is something that is more specific to your house and also gives the more appropriate value of your house. Yes, it does cost to have an appraiser. An appraisal is $400, $500, but necessary in the scheme of things. If you have a second home, that as well, personal property, to list them out. What is it that you want to keep? What's important to you? I often say, if you could get a sheet of paper, put these are the things that are most important. The middle column is these are the things that, if I keep, great. If I don't, they're replaceable, no big deal. The third column is the things I know I don't want, he can have, she can have. So get that information ahead of time. It doesn't mean you're going to have it, you're going to get it, but it does mean that you are prepared before you go into mediation. Garage items, tools, sentimental, premarital. This is just a way in which you can divide it. You can write it down. You can get it in your own mind. What is important to you to keep? Checking savings account, need to have all of that. Any miscellaneous marital debt, need to have all of that. Retirement account information, vehicle information, all of that information needs to be gathered to move forward before you meet your attorney, or if you go into mediation without an attorney. And again, let me just state, I do not want you to go to a mediation, just you and your spouse. Have this agreement, sign this agreement, and submit it to the court. I want you to get someone, an attorney, someone with legal eyes and expertise to review these documents to let you know where the landmines are, what you need to watch out for. Very, very important. Then, of course, there are the children. How are we going to co-parent with the children? Lots of decisions to make, and there's some help there. child support calculation. There is a calculator that you put in information and it spits out some numbers for you. Very, very helpful. Parenting time plan. This is just one of the two types of parenting plan available to you in this workbook. So you can either use this one or you can use this one. And these are provisions to discuss with your attorney. Excuse me. Those things that need to be addressed in the parenting, excuse me, in the parenting schedule and also in the legal documents. These items would be very important to you. And we want it as airtight as possible so that there are no surprises for you as you proceed further. So one other thing on parenting time, when you decide on the parenting time and things come up as they always do, and you and your spouse both agree, we're going to deviate from this plan for a short period of time because we both agreed and Johnny's got a birthday party or whatever, you can do that. The only time you have to go back here to this schedule is if you cannot agree. If you cannot agree, it's your parenting time and Johnny has a birthday party and you don't care because you want Johnny with you. And if you cannot agree, then you go back to the schedule. Okay, what does the schedule say here? That's what we have to go by. So it can resolve a lot of conflict, a lot of issues. Holidays are very important. How are you going to schedule that? Vacation breaks, spring break, Christmas vacation break, how are you going to schedule those? How are you going to maintain extracurricular activities? Who's going to pay? How are you going to co-parent with that? The courts are going to view it as what is in the best interest of the child. And I hope and pray that you as a parent want the best interest of your child and are not going to use the children to hurt the other spouse. Doesn't work. It only destroys your children. Please hear me on that. So very, very important. Taxes, who's going to file? Taxes, what about spousal support? Typically, I am in Michigan, so that's the information that I use. Typically, if you're married less than 10 years, the courts are not going to give you, typically, not always, not going to give you spousal support. But if you've been married more than 10 years, certainly it is something to consider and review. And there is a calculator. You can go in, plug in all the numbers, and that will reach a number that you can start with. It doesn't mean that's the one and only number. You may negotiate something different based on what those numbers are. So division of assets. This is just a guide of, if you are one of those who want 50-50 in asset values. So if you want to go ahead and use this more complex sheet, you can do that. And that's really going to give you some total values at the bottom. I want everything 50-50. I get $65,000 worth and he gets $65,000 worth. Then this is one that you can use. A little more complex, but it's possible. And then, of course, you do want to go to an attorney, take all of your mediation guide or this information if you're going to use an attorney, and say, I am prepared. I have started this process. I'm prepared. Now let's get to work and let's move forward. What could go wrong? Oh, lots of things. Having worked in the divorce world for the past 16 years, I can tell you a lot of things could go wrong. These are just some of the samples to review, to look at, and to think about, to consider, and have a plan B. You're not going to get everything that you want. Your spouse is not going to get everything that they want. So what are those things which you have some flexibility with? For example, I want to keep the house, but I can't really buy him out of the house. Well, he has 401k, and I could give him more of that 401k for the equity in the home. So there are ways to negotiate, to get around and to be able to get this settled. So these are just some terms that you may hear that may be important, particularly QDRO, QDRO there, Qualified Domestic Relations Order, is a document, it's a legal document. It too will cost $400 or $500 to prepare. but it deals with retirement. So you are able with this Quadro to take money from one 401k or retirement account and move it to another retirement account, and you will not be penalized or taxed because it is a Quadro. And this saves you from that, from those taxes. So just some things to look at. So there you have it, 33 pages for you to work. I hope that this workbook, I know if you use it, will be incredibly helpful to you. And I hope you will request it free upon request. My heart is really just to help your heart get through this process. My goal really is to minimize the damage that is done financially, legally, emotionally, and spiritually as you go through divorce. So my name again is Kathy Beatty, and I'm with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking every step of the way with you through the trauma of divorce.